Sahana vavatu, sahano bhunattu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejas vinavaditamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadasiva Samarambam Sankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudirayet. Okay, I'll read from this paragraph. Non-binding desires not the problem. Yeah, sure. Shall I go back from the non-binding desires? We did this one. Okay. When you are everything, what is that okay? Or you want me to go even before this?
Yeah, if you want to start from the beginning and go.
Okay, no problem. Shri Bhagavan Prajahati Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha
Prajahati.
Prajahati
Prajahati yadaka.
Prajahati Yada Kaman Sarvan Partha Manogatan Atmaneva Atmana Tushtaha Stita Prajna Tadachyate. Sri Bhagavan, the Lord Vach said, Partha, O Partha, Yada, when, Sarvan, all, Manogatan, as they appear in the mind, common desires, Prajahati gives up, Atmani in oneself, Atmani is in oneself, Eva alone, Atmana with oneself. Tustaha, one who is happy, tada, then, Chitaprajnaha, a person of ascertained knowledge. Uchyate is said to be. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Partha, Yada Sarvan, Manogatan, Kaman, Prajahati, Atmani eva Atmana, Tustaha, tada, Chitaprajnaha, Uchyate. Sri Bhagavan said, Sri Bhagavan said, when a person gives up all the desires as they appear in the mind, O Partha, happy in oneself, with oneself alone, that person is said to be one of ascertained knowledge. So, I'll read this again. Sri Bhagavan said, when a person gives up all the desires as they appear in the mind, O Partha, happy in oneself, with oneself alone, that person is said to be one of ascertained knowledge. The characteristics stated here and in the subsequent verses of the chapter are with reference to a person who has already attained this knowledge. Both the definition, lakshana of a wise person, siddha prajna, and the means for becoming wise, the sadhana, are discussed. Although Arjuna only wanted to know who is Siddha Prajna, the sadhana is also taught because throughout the Shastra, the characteristics of wise person are said to also be the means for preparing one's mind for the knowledge of the Atma. In his commentary, Shankara referred to a Siddha Prajna as one who is accomplished, one who has made it, Kritartha, Kritartha, Kritartha. The characteristics of one who has made it by gaining this knowledge become the sadhana, the means for gaining the knowledge. Thus, the wise person's spontaneous expressions in life, the attitudes and disposition with which he or she interacts with others, are the characteristics that establish the norms to be followed by the seekers of this wisdom. That's a more like introduction. The definition is also the means. These characteristics are to be cultivated because they are the means by which the seeker becomes a wise person. Without these sadhanas, a person does not become wise. Thus, in the beginning, there is a sadhana, and then later, the sadhana becomes an expression. Sympathy, love, freedom, giving, and so on are all sadhanas in the beginning. They are means for self purification and maturity, eventually becoming the natural expressions of the same person. It is not that the person tries to be sympathetic, loving, and giving. He or she is naturally sympathetic, loving, and giving. However, for the person who has not yet made it, he or she tries, for example, to give. This is necessary because, along with the giving thought, there is also the opposite thought in the form of a reluctance to give. In the mind of the person, the question, why should I give, still arises. If the ego is there telling me not to give, and sorry, if the ego is there telling me not to give, then I am not a giving person. Thus, giving love, sympathy, consideration, and so on, all of which are the spontaneous expressions of a wise person, become the sadhanas for the person who wants to be wise, the mumukshu. So, this is the definition, also the means. We are talking about what is the definition for Sthita Prajna, and that same things is the means for the sadhanas for the person who wants to be wise, the mumukshu. The sadhana itself is to be accomplished by effort, yatna. If you succeed in acquiring these characteristics, then you become firmly established in the knowledge. You gain jnana nishta. What was accomplished with effort becomes the natural expression of the wise person. That is the rule. Therefore, all the universal values, being natural to the Sthita Prajna, are the sadhanas for the mumukshu. They become natural to the Sthita Prajna because they are the natural expression of oneself. But in the beginning, the person deliberately cultivated them. To become wise, you have to follow them. Only then can you gain jnana nishta. So to become wise, you have to follow them. Only then you gain Jnananishta. Thus, these values are both the qualifications and the qualities you need for the knowledge to take place. And in time, they become very natural to you. The qualities represented by universal values are not like a boat that you use to cross the river and then leave behind once you have reached the other side. Even though these qualities are the means for preparing your antakarana for the knowledge, they become natural expressions because you continue to be a person with such a mind. You interact with the world as before, but now you interact spontaneously because these qualities have become natural to you. Thus, in the beginning, they are in the form of sadhanas, the means for accomplishing the self knowledge, whereas later they are like ornaments, very natural, spontaneous expressions of the person. Bhagavan Krishna included both the definition of a wise person and the means for becoming wise in his response to Arjuna's request for a description of the Sthita Prajna because they are one and the same thing. I'll read this line again. Bhagavan Krishna included both the definition of a wise person and the means for becoming wise in his response to Arjuna's request for a description of Sthita Prajna because they are one and the same thing. Shankara makes the same point in his commentary introducing this verse. Krishna also indicated that giving up all desires, sarvan kaman, does not mean that Tita Prajna has no desires, but that as they arise in his mind, Manogatan, he gives them up. Prajahati. Oh, sorry, this is what you were saying. I said Prajahati. Okay, so the Prajahati. Okay, so he gives them up is Prajahati. That means the desires are not pursued. So that has been destroyed as it arises in the mind. So that means the desires are not pursued. In this way, the wise person gives up all desires. So can we move on or should we discuss in between, Dr. Brahmara? I know it's a long thing, but I think we should keep in mind so we can recollect all of this. Can you be happy if you give up desires? Can you be happy if you give up desires? So we read about what the means wise. The definition is also the means. And then we are going on to can you be happy if you give up desires? Now the question may arise, if a man gives up all his desires, does that not mean that he will have no happiness, ananda? We know that a man is happy only when he fulfills a desire, but here he gives up all desires as they arise in his mind and at the same time continues to live. If all his desires disappear and he disappears with them, there is no problem. But if he gives up all desires and continues to exist in this world, it seems that he has no way of being happy. What recourse does he have except to become high on drugs or a madman who is always laughing at nothing? In order to answer this question, we have to take two things into consideration. First, people are not happy, and secondly, people are always busy fulfilling their desires in order to be happy. They are always hopeful that happiness will come because they do not become happy occasionally. Sorry, they do become happy occasionally. Sorry, I'll read that line again. They are always hopeful that happiness will come because they do become happy occasionally. Tomorrow will be better, they say. Everything will be wonderful when this is over. It seems, therefore, that people who pursue their desires are always working for happiness, whereas those who have given up all desires have no way of being happy, and no one can remain for long period without being happy. Bhagavan corrected this train of thinking by saying that such a person is happy with himself or herself. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. So Bhagavan corrected that train of thinking that in the previous paragraph what we said, only they are happy when they fulfill their desires. But he Bhagavan correcting that train of thinking by saying that such a person is happy with himself or herself. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. In himself or herself, the wise person is happy. So the wise person is happy himself or herself. Everyone is happy in himself or herself anyway, but always because of something else. Here, without any external props or circumstances, without expecting or depending upon any condition whatsoever, the person is happy. So, the analogy of sugar crystal is useful here. Simply by being a sugar crystal is sweet. It does not require a sweetening agent to be sweet because it is already saturated with sweetness. That is why it is sugar crystal. Therefore, it cannot be sweetened further. Similarly, one who is happy, tushta, does not depend on any other object or situation to be happy. By one's own awakening to oneself alone, one is happy. Such a person is called Chitta Prajna. So, Chitta Prajna is one's own awakening to oneself alone, one is happy. Such person is called Chitta Prajna. Shankara explains here that Chitta means well established, and Prajna is that knowledge which is born of Viveka. Okay. Shankara explains that here that Chitta means well established, and Prajna is that knowledge which is born of Viveka. The discriminative inquiry into and analysis of Atma and Anatma. Therefore, the one for whom this knowledge is well established is called a Chitta Prajna or Vidwan, a wise person. Arjuna wanted to know what a Chitta Prajna was, and this was Krishna's definition. So, Arjuna wanted to know what a Chitta Prajna was, and this was Krishna's definition. It is an excellent and complete definition. A Chitta Prajna, Krishna said, is the one who being awake to the fact of the Atma. One point is being awake to the fact of the Atma. And then being happy for no other reason. Gives up all desires that arise in his or her mind. That is the definition for Chitta Prajna by Bhagavan Krishna. one who being awake to the fact of the Atma and being happy for no other reason gives up all desires that arise in his or her mind. So this is about what we read so far. Can you be happy if you give up desires? So, and going on to the difference between,
So here the analogy is of that of the sugar crystal.
yeah, right.
So normally, see, because that is our experience, we are
Mm-hmm,
happy only sometimes when
right.
certain things are fulfilled. So we are conditionally happy.
Mm-hmm,
Most of the times we are unhappy. So
right,
therefore, how does this, just by giving up desires, how can one be happy? Will he just vanish? Is what the question was. So
right.
just like how the sugar crystal is sweet and cannot be sweetened further. So once that Atmani eva Atmana Tushta, once he recognizes his true nature,
Mm-hmm,
and the nature of the Atma, Lakshana is Ananda.
right.
So that there is no precondition for that. There is no need for any desire.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't add any more sweetness to make sugar sweeter.
Sugar sweet. Yeah.
It is already sweet. So this person is already Ananda. He's already full. So what precondition is required? Therefore,
Yeah. Uh, Obviously, this, I mean, uh, the Swamiji, how he does this compare and contrast, between what our life now and how we can go to this mumukshu part, right? And attain the knowledge. So he gives that, beginning part, what's happening with us, like conditional happiness, like, or you get uh, upset with it if it doesn't get fulfilled, that raga dveshas happens. But then he compares that to the wise person. Wise person doesn't, like you said, it's a sugar crystal. He is awakened to himself and he attained, he is happy already, and he doesn't have to have more desires to fulfill any of that.
and
And
he's
that
Sthita
again, that,
Prajna. He's established in this knowledge.
yeah, established in knowledge.
See, a
So
person might be very, very indifferent to everything.
mm-hmm,
He may not have desires, but then that person, until and unless he is established in this knowledge, he would not be called Sthita Prajna. Just a
yeah,
pragmatic person, just a practical person who takes everything as samatva
mm-hmm,
would not be considered as Sthita Prajna. So the
mm-hmm,
knowledge of the Atma and realization that one is none other than Atma, that is a that is necessary in order to be called a Sthita Prajna.
right. So yeah, it's very nicely said here. And again he points it out how Shankara comes out, and this is even ourselves, to go from here to where we supposed to go, to our mumukshu path, like it also helps the sadhanas, how they narrated it. Again, will read further, and that will give us more into this what desires wise man has was other, compared to what they are talking about. The difference between by anyone else want to give any your thoughts on the previous two headings that we read before move on. I think it's really interesting to read it again and again, because the more we read,
There's more
it
clarity
makes,
that dawns.
yeah, it's really, like when you read every line, it makes it more. Even then, I'm not able to put it in words correctly, but I get the essence. But then, uh,
So I was just wondering, as you were reading,
uh,
what is a desire?
what is a desire, right?
What is a desire?
That I want to do something like that. That's desire is like the definition of desire is like like you like something and you want to do it. You want to have it. That could be one desire, or like you want to. I mean, I can only. It's type of an action, right? I mean,
It's a
it's a
thought
thought.
ultimately, no?
It's a thought. Yeah,
It's a
you get
thought.
the
It
thought.
just
It
springs up.
arises in the mind. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And what is the basis of this desire?
Is it the previous impressions that we have, or that prompts us to have these thoughts?
Yeah. It is the
Mm.
karma or desire
Karma.
includes
Mm.
both raga and dvesha.
Desha, yeah.
But it's interesting to understand where and how this desire is born.
Born, yeah.
If
Yeah, I
so, it
think,
seems like an illusion, right? There is no basis. It is like how ajnana is. It is beginningless,
yeah.
but it
I
has an end.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, I am going back to this eating part, right? Like you eat a globe jamun or whatever, like a cake. You like this kind of cake. You like globe jamun without the syrup, like the dry one, but yet it's sweet. So that kind of liking makes it that impression in our mind. And one second, let me turn up this. Please have your discussion. One second, I'll be back. Sorry. Um, so, what were we saying? Yeah, like that kind of impression that we get, right? Like yet, like Vesha is like somebody getting an injection. It was painful. Now I don't want to get injection because of the previous things. Uh, that kind of impression that or thoughts that may arise from us. I don't know about the other, and then other external factors may be causing us to think or making that thought arise in your mind. I haven't really thought about that very much. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
If we go back, I think there is this three knots, right?
Mm,
Avidya, kama, and karma. These are the
mm,
three knots that bind us. These are the primary knots. So everything has its genesis in avidya. If you look at the
mm,
Karana
mm-hmm.
Sharira is
That
um,
all the impressions. Oh,
yeah,
avidyas are
avidya,
anadi. Uh-huh.
anirvachya
An-
avidya rupam
mm. Anadi.
शरीरद्वयस्य कारणमात्रं सस्वरूप अज्ञानम्
Mm,
एतत् कारणशरीर. So the Karana Sharira itself is born of Ajnana.
mm-hmm,
And then you have the Sula Sukshma Shariras. And
mm-hmm,
in that you have the mind, the intellect, the ego, and everything.
mm-hmm.
So whatever are likes and dislikes, if you go back, it is
Uh,
actually born from avidya.
avidya.
It does not have a beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Since
Right.
avidya has no beginning,
So we don't know when it
it is
started
all
happening.
Maya. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah.
an illusion.
Illusion, right.
And we are just getting caught up in this illusion of
Mm.
and then you have from avidya, you have kama, which is desire. Again, this is can be both. It is both raga and dvesha. And then because you act on, you end up having karma, which is a bondage, and it
Mhm.
continues your cycle of birth
Mm.
and death.
Right,
So, how do we get out of this cycle? Is through knowledge, number one, because avidya is the root cause.
right.
So, only
Totally.
through knowledge. And knowledge of what? Knowledge of the Atma. The Atma is the only one that is there.
Mm.
It is only because of this Maya Memsa that has come up, that has created this whole illusion.
Mhm.
And we are getting so lost in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Please go ahead.
Jai Gurudev. I
Go
just
ahead.
joined it. I just missed the because I cannot do before 8 o'clock. I have some commitments with
That's fine.
yoga.
Mm.
So in this, just I heard Karana Sharira is um, what you call rooted in
Causal
uh,
body.
no,
Yeah.
causal body
Mm.
is avidya. That
Right.
is what I didn't understand that. Actually, Karana Sharira should be not avidya, no?
It is avidya. Karana Sarira. Remember
Oh, of this
the
body.
mm,
Okay, 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 okay.
all the
But-
impressions
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
was from the previous, yeah.
But that is subtle body, no, not Karana.
Karana Sarira is subtle bodies is the Sukshma Sarira. Causal body is the Karana Sarira. There are three Sarira, right?
Yes,
One
yes,
is
yes.
the gross body or Stula Sarira, which is the physical body. And the Sukshma Sarira, all the Pancha Pranas and the um, mind, intellect,
Yes,
and
that all I got it.
all
But
those
Karana
five
Sarida,
is the only that fast impressions that is the cause for the fast forming this Stula Sarira and
okay,
Shushma
okay,
Sarira.
okay, 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 okay. Therefore, it is avidya.
Mm.
Okay,
That
okay.
is the one, the cause for the Sarira Dvaya, what did she said? Dvaya
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sarira, yeah, that
Okay,
the,
okay, okay.
yeah.
Got it. Can you
Mm.
read one more time that paragraph
Sure. Where, like in this
on the causal body?
causal body? Oh, we were quoting that from the Tattvabodh. Hold on. Do you want to go back to Tattvabodh now? One second. I don't have it in here.
No, I
Uh,
will look at it. I will look at it. No problem.
okay.
I have
Okay.
it. I have it. I
I'll
have it.
post it in the group. Okay.
No, I have it. I
After
have
that,
it. I
you
have
have
it.
it.
I have it. I have it. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Mm.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. The difference between binding and non-binding desires. Desires calm us are divided into two types. Oh, it's coming up, Dr. Brahma. Okay. The desires, karmas, are divided into two types, ragas and dveshas. Raga dveshas are nothing but desire. The common word for both of them is kama. I want is kama. I want such and such can be either something you want to acquire or protect, or something that you want to avoid or get rid of. So there it is, like raga dvesha, right? I want to acquire or protect, or something you want to avoid or get rid of. Either way, it is a kama. I want. This want can be in the form of raga or dvesha, depending on whether you want to acquire something or get rid of something. So it's both, either acquire something or get rid of something. Raga dveshas are also of two types. Then under the raga dveshas, again two types of raga is binding and non-binding. Dvesha also binding and non-binding. So the raga dveshas are also two types, binding and non-binding. Whenever the Shastra talks about kama in the form of raga or dvesha, it is referring only to those that are binding. So it's only referring to binding desires. When a person gives up all kamas as they arise in the mind, he or she does so for a reason. Whether otherwise, giving them up is not possible. That man who gives up all the desires in his mind and who is happy in himself is called a wise man, Chitta Prajna. Seems to mean that the first condition is a necessity for the second condition. Thus, in order to be happy with oneself, one has to give up all desires. How is that possible? Unless you are happy with yourself, how can you give up all desires? If, in order to give up all desires, you have to be happy with yourself, and in order to be happy with yourself, you have to give up all desires. You are in an unenviable position. So it is something like a mentally unbalanced man who is advised that unless he marries, he will not be cured. In other words, the diagnosis and the treatment are one. Because no father will give his daughter in marriage to a madman. He will not be able to marry. Unless he marries, he cannot be mentally well. This again another example compared to how you can give up desires and happy to yourself. And to be happy to yourself, you have to give up all desires. We seem to have the same situation here, but do we? According to some modern translations, it may look that way, but not according to Shankara. So we have talked about the difference between binding and non-binding desires. Here the desires are two types, ragas and dveshas. Again, under ragas and dveshas, there are two types, binding and non-binding. So the mostly the Shastra talking about binding desires. Non-binding desires are not the problem. First, Shankara created a problem by saying that a person who gives up all his desires is like a madman. First, Shankara created a problem by saying that a person who gives up all his desires is like a madman. Otherwise, how can he be happy? Then he said, a man who is happy in himself by his own awakening to himself does not need any desire to be fulfilled in order to be happy. What desires are being referred to here? Only those desires whose fulfillment is meant to make me happy, and not those that are non binding in nature for me. Not those that are non binding in nature. So, obviously, it's binding in nature for me. The non binding desires may include a desire to do, a desire to write, desire to teach, a desire to give, a desire to just simply stay put, and so on. Non binding desires are not being considered here, only binding desires. If a wise person is one who gives up all desires, where does that leave Shankara, who wrote the commentary on giving up desires? Was he a wise man? Was Krishna, who taught Arjuna, a wise man? Was Vyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata in which the Gita appears, a wise man? If only those who have given up all desires are wise, none of these men can be considered to have been wise. Krishna seemed to have a desire to teach. Krishna all but pounced on Arjuna. He did not even mind that he was in the midst of battlefield. Krishna's knowledge seemed to have been bottled up inside him, and it came pouring out for Arjuna's asking in one long continuous flow. Aside from his desire to teach, Krishna seemed to have some other desires too. For example, when he was asked to drive Arjuna's chariot, he agreed. Had Krishna given up every desire that arose in his mind, he could not have driven the chariot, but he did drive it. He also took up the flute and played a lot of songs. If this desire had been given up, all the gopis would be still, waiting to hear his music, and he would be still sitting with his flute poised. He would not have even had the desire to remove his hands from the flute. Since Krishna presented himself as one who performed various actions, and since doing presupposes desire, he could not have been a Sthita Prajna by his own definition. Vyasa also must have had a lot of desires to have written this great magnum opus, this huge work called the Mahabharata. To have kept on writing as he did, Vyasa must have had a very special mind indeed, and a lot of desires as well. People often have the desire to accomplish some enormous project or the other, but then after a while they give it up. They begin it, but do not complete it. Not Vyasa. He began and finished every chapter. Thus, according to the definition, he could not have been a jnani. In fact, no teacher can be a jnani. Thus, they must all be anjanis. If if the desire is not there, a wise person cannot teach, which means the otherwise can teach, but they have nothing to teach. Unfortunately, the explanations put forward in some modern commentaries of the Gita based on incorrect translations have created a lot of problems in understanding what is meant by giving up all desires. If this were not the case, there would be no misunderstanding because what was said originally by Krishna is very clear. So now is it clear between the binding desires and non-binding desires?
This boils down to the fact that as long as we are alive in this body,
Mm.
actions cannot be escaped. We need to, actions will happen. And every action is prompted by a desire.
Mhm.
Whether that desire, so have going with that translation that giving up all desires is not right. So
Right.
there is a qualification because desires can be binding, non-binding. So giving up desires means giving up binding desires.
So that's the only
Because
explanation that we can give back, I think, for the non-binding desires, right?
right,
Especially, yeah, you cannot say, okay, like it said, it's incorrect translation, that the
correct.
understanding is
So
not
that is the
correct.
modern translation which some people have done may confuse everybody. Is
Right.
that all desires have to be given up?
Mm,
See, desire is something that prompts any action. Even the
right.
desire to get
Mm-hmm.
up from the way from sleep is a desire.
Mm.
but that's a non-binding desire. Brushing your teeth, taking a bath. So all this, and including all the examples that was given here with respect to Krishna teaching, driving the chariot.
Yeah, yes, writing in Gita, all that Shankara writing commentary,
Teaching,
yeah,
right?
teaching,
So
yeah,
all these come under the non-binding desires.
right. Today, I did attend that meditation with Gurudev today. It was nice. The world global meditation was it's more like non-binding desire. Mm. So you want to, when you are everything, what is there to be done? When you are everything, what is there to be done? As Krishna told Arjuna in the third chapter, a wise person is not bound by his Suresh ji was asking that question, right? Why it's avidya rupam? Because of avidya rupam only we have taken this body and so sthula sarira,
I got
sushma
it.
sarira,
I got
right?
it. Yeah.
No, if you really have that, if you have that knowledge already realized our atma, ourselves, then we won't
Come here.
come here. Right. So even since you asked that question, it's still in my back of my mind how to explain that.
No,
So
no,
it
no, I
just came
got it.
to no,
I
no.
just
I
joined that time and I immediately got that doubt.
no.
Not,
It's good that we keep asking ourselves the question only. Then it makes us think, right? Otherwise, it's like
yeah.
simply reading and trying to remember. Then you forget it. We read this so many times. Now, as we are reading many times, still we are, at least hopefully, this will stick to our mind.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. When you're everything, what is there to be done? As Krishna told Arjuna in the third chapter, a wise person is not bound by his or her desires and is not subject to any kind of mandate. Desires are only binding if you take yourself to be a karta, a doer. Only then do you have things to do. Only then can there be dereliction of duty. If, on the other hand, you do not look upon yourself as a karta and are awake to the knowledge of yourself, there is no question of self being a doer. No question of the self being a doer. Therefore, there is no doership and nothing to be done. Lord Krishna told Arjuna that because he had no desires, he had nothing to do. Because Krishna is everything and everything is himself, what is there to be accomplished? Nevertheless, he was always active, meaning that all the activities he performed were non binding. So, when the non binding action is like you are also not the doer. And that's a key point. Even yesterday we brought this up, or day before. Yeah, non binding desires that you think you are not the doer. You do it, but you are not the doer. If activities are non binding, the prompting factor of activity, karma, must also be non binding. Okay, if activities are non-binding, the prompting factor of activity, karma, must also be non-binding. Okay. Here in the Gita, non-binding karma is not the topic. Only binding karma is discussed. So now again the distinction between the binding and non-binding has been discussed here. The placement of the words van, yada, and then tada in this verse is also significant. The word then comes much later, and until it comes, the force of the word when continues. When a man gives up all desires as they arise and being happy with himself in himself, only then can be called Sthita Prajna. The force of one is the same for both conditions when he gives up all desires and when he is happy with himself, in himself, depending on nothing for his happiness. Therefore, one gives up all desires arising in one's mind that are binding in nature, a desire to be secure, to be happy, to be somebody, and so on. A person who is secure with himself or herself gives up such desires naturally. The word tushta in the verse happy. Sorry, the word tushta in the verse does not merely mean happiness, it implies security also. The insecure cannot be tushta, happy. Therefore, one who is secure is also happy. And giving up all desires is possible only when one is happy with oneself. Thus, the definition of Sthita Prajna is complete. What else can be said? One who is happy with oneself is a wise person who can totally accept himself or herself, except the self is acceptable. The self is perfect. It is not imperfect. Perfection means that there is no sense of imperfection whatsoever. The self is free from any sense of imperfection, and the whole creation, the whole world, the universe is non separate from the self. Because the self is complete, Purna, it cannot be improved upon. Just as the sweetness of sugar cannot be improved upon, so too the fullness of the Atma cannot be improved upon. Being awake to that fact, the person is happy. To be wise, you must have wisdom. This then is the lakshana, the definition of a wise person. To be wise requires wisdom, nothing else. How a wise person walks, talks, and sits means nothing. Anyone can learn to walk in a certain way, and if the definition of wise person is that he or she talks slowly and that everyone who talks slowly would be a jnani, the speed at which one talks and or how one walks means nothing. Wisdom alone makes one wise. Just as being friendly is the only way to make friends, there is no other way. Similarly, some people ask how they can develop love. All that is to be done is to love. What else can you do? You cannot discover love outside of love itself. If you want to discover more love, be loving. Create conditions that will help you discover love. Conditions that are not inimical to the discovery of love. People often create certain conditions in themselves, knowingly or unknowingly, that are inimical to the discovery of love. If you avoid doing this, you will find that you are loving. Love is a manifestation of one's fullness. Love is nothing but the express form of fullness, Ananda. But just as wheat flour takes our names, just such as bread, rolls, and muffins, so too love is subject to various forms. The different names given to wheat represent modifications of the wheat. Similarly, love is simple emotion, Love is a simple emotion which is a modification or manifestation of Ananda. If you analyze love, you will find nothing but Ananda. The manifest form of Ananda is love, and love itself turns into such natural qualities as sympathy, compassion, giving, depending upon the situation. And when that same love is distorted in any way, it becomes karma, leading to negative emotions such as greed, anger, depression, and so on. All of this then are nothing but one expression of Ananda, love. This is why we say love is Bhagavan, meaning that the express form of Ananda is Bhagavan. And what is Bhagavan? The essential form of Bhagavan is Satchit Ananda. And the express form of Ananda, Ishvara, the Lord, is love. The modifications of this love can be either positive or negative. Sympathy and compassion are examples of positive modifications of love, whereas negative modifications are anger, greed, jealousy, and so on. All that is there is one Ananda, expressed or unexpressed. There is now this sentence is important, right? All that is there is one Ananda, expressed or unexpressed. Unexpressed, it is the Swarupa, the very nature of fullness, which is the definition of Ananda. So the Sugat Swarupa, like we read, right, which is the definition of Ananda. Expressed, it becomes love, prema. We shall see more of this definition later. Here, the Sita Prajna is one who discovers the Ananda in himself or herself and knows that there is nothing other than oneself. When one says, I am the whole, it means that person is himself or herself, the fulfillment of desires, all desires. We shall see as we proceed how the discovery of oneself and the fulfillment of all desires are not separate but identical. Oh, okay. So, trying to finish on time. So we have 1 minute, but we can do the manana. Please share all your thoughts. I mean, it's very very nice, nice sloka, and also a lot of important thing to think about how we can import that all this information to our life. I think it's in the previous sloka where that Chitta Prajna, when he asks, Arjuna asks that question to Bhagavan Krishna, uh, you're answering the person versus the answering the question. And somewhere we read that part, right? So not just answering the question literally. If you say Chitta Prajna is who is steady and knowledgeable person, a literal meaning like that. It's not that. So we have to remember why they're asking that question in the first place.
Yeah, so the whole thing is about that fullness. No, if one is full, there is nothing to be done, and that fullness is ananda,
Mm.
and an expression of that ananda is love.
Mm-hmm.
Love flows into different positive emotions. It gets distorted, it's negative emotions.
Emotions,
So
right?
how do we express this love in its true form is by creating creating conditions where it can be expressed. And we subconsciously, unconsciously create some inimical situations. And what is that? I mean, that is what we said yesterday, was that if we are able to follow all the 5 knowledge points that are given in our happiness program, then we are creating these conducive situations where love in its true form, undiluted form, can be expressed. Undistorted form. Opposite values are complementary, accepting people and situations and not seeing an intention, not being a football, and accepting the moment as it is.
As it is, yeah.
The moment you do not do any of this, then you're subconsciously, unconsciously creating an inimical situation. And that is what we find. We end up blaming others or becoming a football. Then that love gets distorted.
Yeah. True. That anger, jealousy, greed, all that happens.
Hurt, humiliation, all that happens. So every time we are going through any of these negative emotions, we just have to realize that we have sidestepped. We have subconsciously or unconsciously created these situations, and we just have to get ourselves back on track.
Right.
Living that knowledge. When you live that knowledge, then you're back on track.
That's very nice, Dr. Ramana, where you brought that from Ananda and going down that way. In the beginning part of the sloka was said, how the definition of the Siddha Prajna is given, it is also the means for the mumukshu to follow this to attain the knowledge. So that developing that those qualities, so they have certain qualification and qualities to become wise person, right? So that qualities, initially we have to make an effort to develop that, like sympathy and giving compassion and all that. But then once you are really giving up all desires in the mind, it arises in the mind, and knowing yourself, happy with yourself, then these qualities becomes natural to you. It's not like the example given where you take the boat from one shore to the other shore and leave it all alone. Not like that. So this comes on, and as the body, we live in this body, we continue to do actions, but that going to be more of non-binding desires. So now we understand what is binding desire and non-binding desires. Binding, again, desire is two types, right? Like the raga deshas, and above among raga deshas is become binding and non-binding. And further division is more two types again. So the one we have to give up is binding desires. And then that part about non-binding desires, where we don't feel the doership, that I am doing this, that. When you the binding desire, that we kind of found ourselves that do karta bhavana. So please share. I don't know, I might have missed something, or I'm not sure. I hope. Atmani eva atmana tushta. Yeah, this complete definition is also a good one. Awake to the fact of the Atma and happy for no other reason, gives up all desire that arises his or her mind. So, there's anything to be repeated, let me know, or otherwise, please share your thoughts. Mm. So I'm going to conclude. Probably tomorrow you can do a little bit of manana on this before you go, or I think 56. लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम्। सर्वं कृष्णार्पणमस्तु। हरि ओम्। गुरुभ्यो नमः। Good. Dr. Pramara, so should I? Let me see if we have it in the previous.
I will share.
You share it? Okay.
Meditation is accepting this moment, living every moment totally with depth. Let us keep our spine erect and body relaxed and eyes closed. Relax your shoulders. Keep a big smile on your face. You're sitting like the statue of Buddha, very serene and with a serene smile on your face. Relax your body. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your chest region, throat and chest region. If you notice some tension in the body, just let it be. Except those parts of the body where you feel a tension, the other parts are in comfort. Other parts are at peace. Become aware of that also. There are many good things about you and inside of you. Acknowledge them. They will never leave you. And the negative aspect you may see in you is never going to stay with you forever. They are all guests for some time. Let them be. Sit with the total acceptance of yourself the way you are at this very moment. total acceptance of what is now here will lead us to deeper meditation. Let go of all the efforts. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let go of all your effort and be in this emptiness. And slowly and gradually become aware of body and surroundings. And you may gently open your eyes.